The Forgotten Guardians, Chapter 1. A signal from the past, the emergency klaxon pierced through the quiet hum of the Retribution's bridge, shattering the uneasy peace that had settled over humanity's fragile empire. Commander Sarah Chen's eyes snapped open from her brief respite, her weathered hands instinctively reaching for the command console as the star-filled viewport revealed the swirling nebula that had become their temporary sanctuary. "Commander, you need to see this," Lieutenant Torres called out, his voice carrying an urgency that made Sarah's blood run cold. The young officer's fingers danced across his console, holographic displays materializing in the air between them like ghosts from another age. Sarah approached the tactical display, her boots echoing against the metal flooring of the bridge. The war with the Dominion had officially ended, but peace remained elusive. Rogue factions, internal conflicts, and a constant threat of loyalist uprisings kept humanity's newly formed government on edge. They needed allies desperately. "What am I looking at, Torres?" Sarah asked, studying the pulsing energy signatures on the display. "It's a signal, Commander, but not like anything we've encountered before." Torres manipulated the hologram, zooming in on a section of the nebula where strange, rhythmic pulses emanated from what appeared to be empty space. "At first, we thought it might be residual Dominion technology, but the frequency patterns, they're ancient, older than anything in our databases." Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The signal pulsed with a haunting regularity, like a heartbeat that had been waiting centuries to be heard. The energy readings were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, not the crude brutality of Dominion tech, nor the familiar signatures of human engineering. This was something else entirely. "How long has it been transmitting?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "That's the strange part," Torres replied, his brow furrowed in concentration. "According to our deep space monitoring stations, the signal just activated 3 days ago, as if something had been sleeping and suddenly woke up." The bridge fell silent except for the gentle hum of life support systems. Sarah stared at the display, her mind racing through possibilities. In the vast darkness of space, signals didn't just appear from nowhere. Someone, or something, was trying to communicate. Commander, Dr. Elena Vasquez, the ship's chief xenobiologist, approached with a tablet in her hands. "I've been analyzing the signal's composition. The mathematical sequences embedded within it, they're not random. There's a pattern, almost like a language, but it's based on quantum field fluctuations rather than traditional electromagnetic frequencies." Sarah turned to face her senior staff, seeing the mixture of excitement and fear in their eyes. The stakes couldn't be higher. If this was indeed a new species, they could be humanity's salvation or their doom. "Set course for the signal's origin," Sarah commanded, her voice steady despite the uncertainty gnawing at her insides. "And prepare the away team. We're going to make contact." As the Retribution adjusted its heading, piercing deeper into the nebula's swirling embrace, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were crossing a threshold from which there would be no return. The signal grew stronger with each passing hour, its alien rhythm becoming a constant companion to their journey into the unknown. Chapter 2. Into the nebula's heart, the nebula embraced them like a living thing, its luminescent gases swirling around the Retribution's hull in patterns that defied conventional physics. Sarah stood at the viewport, watching as their destination slowly materialized through the cosmic fog, a structure so massive and alien that it dwarfed their entire fleet. "My God," whispered Chief Engineer Rodriguez, his voice barely audible over the bridge's ambient sounds. "Commander, are you seeing this?" Before them hung a space station of impossible proportions, its architecture flowing like liquid metal frozen in time. Crystalline spires jutted from organic-looking surfaces, while energy conduits pulsed with a soft, otherworldly light. The structure seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting in rhythm with a mysterious signal. "All stop," Sarah ordered, her training warring with her awe. "Passive scans only. I don't want to be perceived as a threat." The scanning arrays hummed to life, revealing details that made the crew exchange nervous glances. The station's technology was beyond anything in their databases, energy signatures that bent space-time itself, materials that shouldn't exist according to human physics, and power sources that made their own fusion reactors look like flickering candles. "Commander," Torres reported, his voice tight with barely contained excitement. "The station is responding to our presence. The signal is changing, becoming more complex." It's almost like his words were cut short as the main view screen flickered and died, replaced by static. Then, slowly, an image began to form. Not a hologram, but something that seemed to exist in the space between reality and dream. The figure that materialized was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Tall and ethereal, with features that seemed to shift and flow like liquid starlight, it regarded them with eyes that held the weight of millennia. When it spoke, its voice resonated not through the speakers, but somehow directly into their minds. "We have been waiting," the entity said, its mental voice carrying harmonics of ancient wisdom and profound sadness. "Your species has reached the threshold. The time of isolation is ending." Sarah stepped forward, her heart pounding but her voice steady. "I am Commander Sarah Chen of the Human Federation." "Who are you?" The entity's expression shifted, and Sarah caught a glimpse of something that might have been amusement. "We are the Qir'ath, children of the void, guardians of the ancient ways. We have watched your species struggle from afar, and now we offer assistance." "Why?" Sarah asked, cutting straight to the heart of the matter. "Why help us? What do you want in return?" The Qir'ath's form shimmered, and suddenly Sarah found herself standing not on the bridge of the Retribution, but in a vast chamber within the alien station. Her crew surrounded her, their faces mirrors of her own shock and wonder. "Because," the Qir'ath continued, "your species has proven something we believed lost, the capacity for growth beyond destruction. You have faced your darkness and chosen to transcend it. This is rare." Around them, the chamber came alive with holographic displays showing the rise and fall of civilizations across the galaxy. Species after species had emerged, flourished, and ultimately destroyed themselves in cycles of violence and greed. But humanity's recent victory over the Dominion had broken that pattern, choosing unity over domination. "We offer you technology," the Qir'ath said, gesturing to the displays. "Knowledge, power to reshape the galaxy. But understand, this gift comes with responsibility. The power we offer has destroyed others who proved unworthy." Sarah felt the weight of the moment crushing down on her. The decision she made here would determine not just humanity's future, but the fate of countless worlds. She looked at her crew, Torres with his youthful enthusiasm, Dr. Vasquez with her scientific curiosity, Rodriguez with his practical concerns. They were all looking to her for guidance. "Show us," Sarah said finally. "Show us what you're offering and what you expect in return." The Qir'ath's form brightened, and the chamber around them transformed once more, revealing the true scope of their proposal and the dangers that lay ahead. Chapter 3. The weight of ancient wisdom. The holographic displays swirled around them like a cosmic dance, showing technologies that seemed to violate the fundamental laws of physics. Sarah watched in fascination and growing unease as the Qir'ath demonstrated weapons that could crack moons in half, defensive systems that bent space-time itself, and ships that moved through dimensions humanity hadn't even theorized. "Your species calls us ancient," the Qir'ath entity said, its voice carrying the weight of eons. "But we prefer to think of ourselves as experienced. We have witnessed the birth and death of galaxies, the rise and fall of civilizations that would seem like gods to your current understanding." Dr. Vasquez stepped forward, her scientific mind overwhelmed by the implications. "How is this possible? The energy requirements alone should—" "Your physics are incomplete," the Qir'ath interrupted gently. "You see the universe as matter and energy, but you have not yet understood the deeper currents that flow beneath reality itself. We learned to tap into these currents millennia ago." The chamber around them shifted, showing images of the Qir'ath at the height of their power. Their fleets had spanned star systems, Their cities have been built within the hearts of stars themselves. They have been a civilization of unimaginable scope and power. Then why did you disappear? Sarah asked, her tactical mind immediately focusing on the critical question. If you were so powerful, what happened? The Qir'ath's form dimmed, and for a moment, Sarah glimpsed something that might have been pain in its alien features. We learned that power without wisdom is the path to destruction. Our own success became our curse. We began to see ourselves as above the natural order, as rightful rulers of all existence. New holographic displays materialized, showing the Qir'ath Empire at its peak and its fall. Internal conflicts had torn their civilization apart as different factions fought over the proper use of their godlike abilities. Entire star systems had been destroyed in their civil wars, and the galaxy had nearly been consumed by the chaos of their battles. We retreated. The Qir'ath continued, before we could destroy everything we had sworn to protect. We have spent the intervening millennia in contemplation, watching younger species repeat our mistakes. Most fail. They achieve power and immediately use it to dominate others, starting the cycle of destruction anew. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. And you think we're different? Your recent actions suggest potential, the Qir'ath replied. You defeated the Dominion, but instead of enslaving their worlds, you sought to integrate them. Instead of revenge, you chose reconstruction. This is unusual. The chamber fell silent except for the subtle harmonics of the alien technology around them. Sarah looked at her crew, seeing the same mixture of wonder and fear in their eyes that she felt in her own heart. What would you want from us? She asked. What are your conditions? The Qir'ath's form solidified, becoming more distinct and somehow more present. Prove that you can wield power without being consumed by it. Use our gifts to build, not destroy. Protect the weak, don't exploit them. Show us that the cycle of civilizational self-destruction can truly be broken. And if we fail? Chief Engineer Rodriguez asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Then we will do what we should have done millennia ago. The Qir'ath replied, its mental voice carrying terrible finality. We will ensure that the galaxy is protected from another failed civilization's ambitions. The threat was clear, but Sarah found herself strangely comforted by it. A species that had learned from its own mistakes, that was willing to act as a safeguard against the repetition of those mistakes, was exactly the kind of ally humanity needed. We accept your conditions, Sarah said, her voice carrying the authority of her command and the weight of her species' future. But we need to know, what immediate threat are you asking us to face? The Qir'ath's form brightened, and the chamber around them transformed once more, revealing star charts and tactical displays that made Sarah's blood run cold. Dominion loyalist fleets, far larger than intelligence had suggested, were massing at the galaxy's edge. But these weren't the same demoralized remnants they had been tracking. They have found something, the Qir'ath explained. Ancient weapons, hidden caches left by civilizations that fell before us. They seek to use these tools to reclaim their empire, and they will not be as reasonable as their predecessors. Sarah studied the tactical displays, her mind automatically calculating force strengths and strategic positions. The threat was real, and it was immediate. Humanity's fleets, still recovering from the recent war, would be overwhelmed. When do we start? She asked. Chapter 4. The first alliance, the transformation of the Retribution, was nothing short of miraculous. Qir'ath technicians, beings of pure energy who could manipulate matter at the molecular level, integrated their technology with human systems in ways that defied conventional understanding. Sarah watched from the observation deck as her ship was reborn, its hull now pulsing with veins of crystalline conduits that channeled energies beyond human comprehension. Commander, Torres reported, his voice filled with barely contained excitement. The weapons systems are incredible. We're showing energy output increases of over 300%, and the targeting computers are interfacing with something they call probability matrices. We can literally predict where enemy ships will move before they do. Sarah nodded, trying to process the implications. In the 3 days since first contact, her entire understanding of warfare had been revolutionized. The Qir'ath hadn't just given them better weapons. They had given them a fundamental advantage in how conflicts could be fought. Defensive systems are even more impressive, Chief Engineer Rodriguez added, his technical mind struggling to grasp the concepts. The hull plating can now disperse energy across multiple dimensions. A direct hit from a Dominion plasma cannon would be like throwing a pebble at a mountain. But it was Dr. Vasquez who raised the concern that had been gnawing at Sarah since the integration began. "Commander, I'm detecting some unusual readings from the crew. The Qir'ath technology seems to be affecting us." "Nothing dangerous," she quickly added, seeing Sarah's expression, "but we're showing enhanced reaction times, improved cognitive processing, and what can only be described as expanded sensory awareness." Sarah felt it too, a heightened awareness of her surroundings, an ability to process information faster than ever before. The Qir'ath had warned them that their technology would change anyone who used it, but they had described it as evolution, not contamination. "Status report on the Dominion forces," Sarah ordered, pushing her concerns aside for the moment. The main display activated, showing a three-dimensional map of the galaxy's outer rim. Red markers indicated Dominion loyalist positions, and Sarah's enhanced awareness immediately grasped the strategic implications in ways that would have taken her hours to analyze before. "They're not just massing," she realized aloud. "They're preparing for a coordinated strike. Multiple vectors, simultaneous attacks on our core worlds. This isn't a desperate last stand. This is a carefully planned reconquest." The Qir'ath entity materialized beside her, its form more solid than before. "Your assessment is correct. The Dominion remnants have been guided by something we did not expect, survivors of the Qir'ath, a species that fell to their own ambitions 10,000 years ago. They have been waiting, planning, using the Dominion as pawns in a larger game." Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's environmental systems. "You're telling me we're not just fighting Dominion loyalists. We're fighting the remnants of another ancient civilization, one that we failed to guide properly," the Qir'ath confirmed, its mental voice carrying deep regret. "We withdrew too soon, left them to their own devices. They destroyed themselves, but not before hiding weapons and knowledge that could devastate the galaxy." The tactical display updated, showing the true scope of the threat. Weapons that could turn stars nova, devices that could tear holes in the fabric of space-time itself, and something the Qir'ath called void seeds, weapons that could consume entire solar systems, turning them into empty darkness. "How long do we have?" Sarah asked. "The assault begins in 72 hours, the Qir'ath replied. "They will strike at the heart of your government first, seeking to decapitate your leadership. Then they will turn their attention to your core worlds, one by one." Sarah turned to her crew, seeing the same determination in their faces that she felt in her own heart. "Then we stop them. How many ships can we count on?" "The main human fleet is still 3 days out," Torres reported. "But the Qir'ath have prepared something for us." The observation deck's viewport shifted, revealing a sight that took Sarah's breath away. Emerging from the nebula were ships unlike anything humanity had ever conceived, vessels that seemed to be carved from crystallized starlight, their hulls flowing like liquid while maintaining perfect structural integrity. They moved with grace that defied physics, leaving trails of luminescent energy in their wake. "We have been preparing," the Qir'ath explained. "Not just technology, but tactics. Your species' greatest strength is not your individual power, but your ability to coordinate, to work together toward common goals. We will combine this with our capabilities." Sarah watched the alien fleet take formation around the Retribution, and for the first time since the war began, she felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. "Set course for the Dominion staging area," she ordered. "It's time to show them what real power looks like." Chapter 5. The crucible of war, the Kepler system hung like a jewel against the star-filled void, its 3 inhabited worlds representing everything humanity had fought to protect. As the Retribution and its Qir'ath escorts dropped out of hyperspace, Sarah's enhanced awareness immediately cataloged the scope of the threat they faced. "Dear God," Torres whispered, his voice barely audible over the bridge's systems. The Dominion fleet was massive, over 300 ships arranged in a formation that spoke of careful planning and ruthless efficiency. But it was the vessels at the center of their formation that made Sarah's blood run cold. Ancient ships, their hulls covered in geometric patterns that seemed to hurt to look at directly, pulsed with energies that registered as gaps in reality itself. Qir'ath vessels, the Qir'ath confirmed, its mental voice carrying centuries of regret. "They were our greatest failure. We should have destroyed these ships millennia ago." Sarah studied the tactical display, her mind processing threat assessments with inhuman speed. The Dominion forces were formidable, but the Qir'ath ships were something else entirely. Weapons of mass destruction that could crack planets or tear holes in space-time itself. "Commander," Dr. Vasquez reported from her science station, "I'm detecting massive energy buildup from the lead Qir'ath vessel. Whatever they're planning it now." On the main screen, space itself began to distort around the ancient ship. Reality bent and twisted as the vessel charged what could only be described as a reality-warping weapon. The target was clear: New Geneva, the capital world of the Human Federation. "All ships, attack Pattern Omega," Sarah commanded, her voice carrying across the fleet channel. "We stop them here, or we lose everything." The Retribution surged forward, its Qir'ath-enhanced engines propelling at its speeds that would have been impossible before. Around them, the alien ships moved like dancers, their weapons beginning to charge with energies that made the stars themselves seem dim. The first exchange of fire lit up the void like a new sun. Dominion plasma cannons lanced out, their beams splashing harmlessly against the Retribution's enhanced shields. In return, the ship's new weapons fired bursts of pure energy that punched through Dominion armor as if it were paper. But it was the Qir'ath ships that truly demonstrated the power of their ancient technology. Beams of coherent light carved through enemy formations, while reality distortion fields caused entire squadrons to simply cease existing. The Dominion forces, for all their preparation, were being systematically dismantled. "The Qir'ath ship is firing," Torres shouted. A beam of absolute darkness lanced out from the ancient vessel, aimed directly at New Geneva. Sarah watched in horror as the planet-killer weapon streaked across space, carrying with it the power to end billions of lives. Then the Qir'ath acted. The alien ships moved as one, their forms shifting and changing until they were no longer individual vessels, but components of a vast machine. Energy flowed between them, creating a web of light that intercepted the Qir'ath weapon. The collision was silent in the vacuum of space, but the visual impact was staggering. Two fundamental forces of the universe meeting in a display of power that dwarfed anything Sarah had ever witnessed. "Now," the Qir'ath entity commanded, its voice echoing in the minds of every human crew member. While they are committed to their attack, the Retribution and its escorts poured fire into the Qir'ath ship, their combined weapons finally finding purchase on the ancient vessel's defenses. Cracks appeared in its reality-distorting hull, and through those cracks, Sarah glimpsed something that made her soul recoil. The twisted remains of the Qir'ath themselves, fused with their technology in a nightmare of flesh and metal. "Keep firing," Sarah ordered, her voice carrying over the chaos. "Don't let them recover." The ancient ship shuddered under the assault, its form beginning to collapse in on itself. But even as it died, it lashed out with weapons that turned nearby asteroids into clouds of plasma and caused spatial distortions that would take decades to fully dissipate. When the explosions finally faded, the Dominion fleet was in full retreat. Their ancient allies were gone, their numerical advantage neutralized, and their morale shattered. The threat to New Geneva had been ended, but Sarah knew this was only the beginning. "Casualties?" she asked, her voice hoarse from the strain of battle. "Minimal," Torres reported, his voice filled with awe. "The Qir'ath shields held. We lost 2 escort vessels, but their crews were evacuated before the ships were destroyed." Sarah slumped in her command chair, the weight of what they had just accomplished settling over her. They had faced weapons that could destroy worlds and emerge victorious. But more importantly, they had proven that the alliance between humanity and the Qir'ath could work. "Commander," the Qir'ath entity said, its form materializing beside her chair, "you have passed the first test. Your species chose to protect rather than conquer, to preserve rather than destroy. This is encouraging." Sarah looked out at the stars, seeing them with new eyes enhanced by alien technology. The galaxy was vast, filled with wonders and dangers beyond imagination. But for the first time since the war began, she felt confident that humanity would not face those challenges alone. "What's next?" she asked. The Qir'ath's form brightened, and Sarah caught a glimpse of something that might have been hope in its alien features. "Now we begin the real work. The galaxy is wounded, scarred by millennia of conflict. Together, we will heal it." Chapter 6. A New Dawn. 6 months after the Battle of Kepler, Sarah stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Harmony Station, watching as human and Qir'ath engineers worked side by side to repair the war-torn planet below. The sight still filled her with wonder. Beings of pure energy collaborating with flesh and blood humans to restore worlds that had been devastated by decades of conflict. "The reconstruction is proceeding ahead of schedule," Dr. Vasquez reported, approaching with a tablet full of data. "The Qir'ath terraforming technology is incredible. They're not just rebuilding the ecosystem, they're improving it, making it more resilient, more diverse." Sarah nodded, her enhanced awareness allowing her to see the subtle changes in the planet's atmospheric composition, the way the newly planted forests were already beginning to spread, the gradual return of wildlife to regions that had been barren for generations. "It's not just the planets," she mused. "It's the people. Have you seen the latest reports from the integration centers?" The integration centers were perhaps the most remarkable development of the new alliance. Humans who volunteered for the process could have their consciousness partially merged with Qir'ath technology, gaining enhanced abilities while retaining their essential humanity. The volunteers reported not just improved physical and mental capabilities, but a deeper understanding of their place in the universe. "The psychological evaluations are fascinating," Dr. Vasquez agreed. "The volunteers show increased empathy, enhanced problem-solving abilities, and what can only be described as expanded consciousness. They're still human, but they're more." Sarah touched the small crystal implant behind her ear, feeling the gentle pulse of Qir'ath technology interfacing with her neural patterns. She had been among the first to volunteer, and the experience had been transformative. The universe no longer seemed like a hostile void. It was a living system, a vast organism of which she was now a conscious part. "Commander," Torres called from the communication station, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council. They want to formally acknowledge the alliance and discuss expansion protocols." Sarah smiled. The Galactic Council was a collection of minor species that had remained neutral during the war, too weak to affect the outcome, but too stubborn to submit to either side. Now, they were scrambling to align themselves with the new power structure. "Tell them we'll be happy to discuss it," she said. "But make it clear that any alliance with humanity now means accepting the Qir'ath as well. We're not going back to the old ways of isolated species competing for resources." The Qir'ath entity materialized beside her, its form more solid and familiar than it had been in those first days of contact. Over the months, Sarah had learned to read its subtle expressions, to understand the complex emotions that drove a species that had learned wisdom through catastrophic failure. "The other species are afraid," the Qir'ath observed. "They see our technology and fear that we will repeat the mistakes of the past, that we will become the new dominators, the new threat to galactic peace." "Will we?" Sarah asked, the question that had haunted her since the first day of the alliance. "That depends on your species," the Qir'ath replied. "Power reveals character. It does not create it. You have shown wisdom and victory, compassion and strength. But the true test is yet to come." Sarah knew what the Qir'ath meant. The galaxy was vast, filled with species and civilizations that had their own agendas, their own fears and ambitions. Not all of them would welcome the new order that was emerging. Some would resist, some would try to exploit the situation, and some would simply withdraw into isolation. The Andorian Confederation has rejected our offer of aid, Torres reported. They claim they want to maintain their independence, but intelligence suggests they're developing their own enhanced weapons programs. The Zillion Empire is requesting immediate integration, Dr. Vasquez added. They want access to our technology, but they're not willing to accept the psychological modifications that come with it. Sarah studied the galactic map displayed on the main screen, seeing the complex web of alliances and tensions that was emerging. The simple binary of human versus dominion had been replaced by something far more complex. A galaxy where every species was trying to find its place in the new order. We'll deal with each situation as it arises, she decided. But we stick to our principles. No forced conversions, no technological imperialism. We offer partnership, not domination. The Qir'ath's form brightened with what Sarah had learned to recognize as approval. This is why we chose your species. Not because you are perfect, but because you are willing to learn, to grow, to become something greater than what you were. Sarah looked out at the stars, seeing them not as distant lights, but as destinations, as possibilities, as homes for species that might one day join the growing alliance. The galaxy was vast, but it no longer seemed empty. It was full of potential, full of hope. What's our next priority? She asked. The Outer Rim territories, the Qir'ath replied. There are species there that have been isolated for millennia, some that have never been contacted by galactic civilization. If we can bring them into the alliance peacefully, we can create a foundation for lasting peace. Sarah nodded, already planning the expeditions that would be needed. It would be dangerous work. First contact always was. But with the Qir'ath as guides and allies, humanity had a chance to do something that had never been done before. Create a truly cooperative galactic civilization. Set course for the Outer Rim, she ordered. We have work to do. As the Harmony Station adjusted its trajectory, Sarah felt the familiar thrill of exploration that had driven her species to the stars. But now it was tempered with wisdom, guided by ancient knowledge, and powered by technology that could reshape the galaxy itself. The future stretched out before them, vast and uncertain, but no longer threatening. With the Qir'ath as their allies and guides, humanity had transcended its role as a single species struggling for survival. They had become something greater, shepherds of a new age, architects of a peace that could last for millennia. And in the vast darkness of space, other ancient powers stirred, drawn by the signals of a successful alliance between young ambition and ancient wisdom. The galaxy was about to change in ways that no one could yet imagine, and Sarah Chen and her crew would be at the center of it all. The age of isolation was ending. The age of cooperation had begun. Asterisk in the depths of space, where nebulae dance with starlight and ancient secrets sleep in the hearts of dead worlds, a new chapter in galactic history had begun. The alliance between humanity and the Qir'ath would face challenges that would test their bonds, encounter wonders that would expand their understanding, and ultimately reshape the very nature of what it meant to be civilized in a universe full of infinite possibilities. Asterisk, the stars were no longer distant lights. They were destinations, waiting to be explored by those brave enough to reach for them and wise enough to do so with open hands rather than closed fists. Asterisk, the future had arrived, and it was brighter than anyone had dared to hope. Asterisk.